There's something that'll be waiting for you in retirement that could potentially cost you and your spouse more than the cost of your house. And I'm going to give you a hint. It's not long-term care.
Welcome to the Ask Brad Show. Be prepared to hear ideas, concepts, and strategies that may challenge the way you were taught to think about saving and investing for retirement. It's time to roll up our sleeves and get to it. And now, the host of the Ask Brad Show, here's Brad Williams.
All right, as I opened the show, I told you there'd be something waiting for you in retirement that could potentially cost you and your spouse more than the cost of your home. Now, typically the answer you might get from most people, especially from financial advisors, is long-term care. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. That's a big cost, should be managed into your financial plan in one way or another, but I've done other shows on that. That's not the purpose of today's shows. Today's show is to tell you it's not long-term care, it's health care. And what I mean by that is all those expenses that come up as you get older and you're having issues. You're probably not on an employer plan anymore. There are very few companies that are providing health care benefits after retirement now. If you have them, you're very lucky, feel blessed. But what we're talking about is overall health care costs. Now, I talk about a lot of subjects on this show, and this is probably not one of the most exciting to talk about, but I'm going to tell you it's probably one of the most impactful when it comes to your overall retirement years, because if you're getting close to retirement, there's an alphabet you need to learn to understand, and that's the ABCs of healthcare. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you've all heard of Medicare Part A, Medicare Part B, Medicare Part C, Medicare Part D, dental, all that stuff. Now, I'm not going to give you a primer today on that. I'll be offering a free report on that if you'd like it. But today, I just want to really address the healthcare. So when we discuss that, as I mentioned, the alphabets, Part A and Part B, that's your hospital, your doctor's visits that you get Part A free, you pay for Part B. You can have a Medicare Advantage, which is a C, and then you got your Part Ds and your supplements, all that stuff. The key is understanding what's out there. So often when people come in to see me and we're building a financial plan for them, they really haven't considered the costs of healthcare in retirement. The fact that most people need to get a supplement. What that supplement is, it helps provide those deductibles and copays to keep you from getting creamed in out-of-pocket expenses when you have healthcare issues. And folks, in retirement, you're going to have healthcare issues. Hopefully they will not be terribly serious, but you're going to have healthcare issues, and it's going to be a major, major expense. In fact, one study I looked at from a great company that's got some great statistics, total projected lifetime healthcare premiums, that's Medicare Part B and D, supplemental insurance and dental insurance, for a healthy, now mind you, that's a healthy 65-year-old couple retiring this year, are expected to be $321,994, and that's in today's dollars. So think about that. And when you add deductibles, copays, hearing, vision, dental cost sharing, that number can grow to over $400,000. Now, how many retirement plans have that built into them? And I'll be frank with you, of the ones that people who come see me for the first time have, very few. And that's an important cost. So often we figure in costs for vacations and another car and so many things like that. And even long-term care insurance. They think that, the nursing home and the home care is going to eat me up and I need to have insurance for that. Well, that's a good idea. And that's another subject entirely. But that's only going to affect a certain percentage of people, because the statistics are something like 1 in 3 is going to need some type of long-term care before they die. But you know what? Healthcare costs are going to affect every single one of you out there. Every single one of you. So they need to be prepared for. And that's key. If you've got any questions, just email me at brad@askbradwilliams.com. My website is askbradwilliams.com. Just send us an email If you want to call it in on our toll-free number, that would be fine. That's 844-343-6048. So there is some significant inflation. Retirement health care cost is projected to rise by 5.47% for the next decade. And that's more than twice the amount of Social Security cost of living. You know, there's an old joke among retirees that when they get a cost of living adjustment from Social Security, it's like one hand takes it and the other takes it away. Well, they just raise your premiums. And with the interest rates being so low, and by design, that's another subject entirely, the government's not having to give cost of living increases very much because they're projecting inflation so low because interest rates are so low. So, you know, these are key things that you've got to look at because health care is going to be one of the most significant retirement expenditures. But planning for it would really mitigate a lot of the issues you're going to have on that. And, you know, let me cite some examples. And one of the reasons that I chose this topic for this particular show is just in this last week, I've had a couple of issues with some long-standing clients, one of which he has been diagnosed with Parkinson's a while back, but it's now getting to where he can't drive anymore and his wife has already passed away. So he's living alone and he's got some decisions to make and the cost of his medicines, all that stuff. We're not even talking long-term care, folks. We're not even talking someone to help him out with activities of daily living. We're talking about his medicines, his doctor visits, things like that, of the cost that he's going to incur there. Think about that. And then something is, I should say simple. It's not really simple, but it's fairly common these days. A hip replacement. Had another client come in. Fortunately, they had a successful hip replacement. But all of the copays, the deductibles, because you well know, as I do, that hip replacements aren't cheap. So these costs are unpredictable, but they can be managed. And that's the key.
At Brad Williams Financial Services, we believe in innovative thinking, and we're not afraid to challenge conventional methods in our approach to managing, investing, and preserving wealth. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
Investing in the stock market these days is like riding a roller coaster. Leaving a place of safety, get on the coaster, hear the clickety-clack as you experience anticipation climbing to the top of the hill, followed by sheer panic as you plummet back to the earth, hoping you stay on track. You might be brave enough to repeat the process several times, going up and down, but never achieving higher highs and accomplishing nothing but anticipation followed by fear. The stock market has been doing this same ride of volatility with no real growth. Proper education, though, can help you find a better way to grow your money during these times.
Call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
As I said before the break, these healthcare costs in retirement are fairly predictable, but they can be managed. And I have a question for you. Does your financial plan include these healthcare costs? When you sat down with your advisor, if you have one, has this subject even come up? It should. It should be part of a plan. So what are you doing to actively manage your care? Because some of the things I read in this study, which are really interesting, is these costs can be pretty significant, but there are things that you can do now to reduce those costs. You know, if you've got diabetes, do a better job of managing it. Keep your blood sugar low. Get on a right diet. When you're dealing with joint issues, look at getting the right supplements. Look at taking care of your own health. You know, it brings back a story. I remember my mother, she battled cancer for about 12 years and she did it valiantly and it finally ended up getting her. And she's just a testament to our family on just strength and belief in God because it carried her through it. But she went to one oncologist who started her on a medicine regimen And he had her taking 3 medications and she wasn't getting well and she just wasn't eating. She was losing weight. We were all getting real concerned about her. And she got on the internet. She died in 97. It was when the internet was fairly new, and looked each of these medications up. And each one of the 3 medications said do not take with the other 2. Now, she took that back to her oncologist and showed it to him. And he went, "Oh, I didn't know that." And so she obviously switched oncologists and started going to another doctor. Well, what I got a kick out of is when my father told me what she said when she walked in to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Who is your primary care physician?" And she said, "I am." And that really hit me hard, because you know what? We are our own primary care physicians. And that's a responsibility we have, and it's a responsibility we need to accept. So when we're looking at healthcare costs in retirement, we need to keep that in mind. And that's probably why I asked a friend of mine to come in. He's in a networking group I'm in. I've been in Business Networking International here in Huntsville, the Heritage Chapter, which is a group of distinguished business people. I've been a member and a couple of times past president. And I meet some really quality people. And frankly, a lot of the interviewees that I have on here come from my group. But he deals with this every day. And I wanted to bring him on because I think he can give us some insight into some of these issues. If you've got any questions, I'd love to hear from my listeners. Give us a call, 844-343-6048. Again, 844-343-6048. As I've often said, I enjoy having guests on because that way my listeners don't have to listen to me all the time. And I always want it to be something topical, something that really has an impact on retirement planning, because that's what our show's all about. And, you know, we can talk about income. We can talk about investment returns and portfolios and all that all day. But one of the biggest threats to a retirement plan is the threat of a long-term care illness or a debilitating illness, because that can get into a lot of money. It can change families. There's a lot of issues there. I know I've been through it in my family. You know, my grandmother had Alzheimer's. My aunt took care of her for about 8 years. I've seen that in my family. I've seen it in friends. Everybody has experienced it. And today I'm privileged to have Jeremy Patton. He is the owner of Visiting Angels. And what Jeremy does is helps people with those non-medical home care issues. Would that be right, Jeremy?
Exactly right. And exactly what we do. We see a lot of situations. Some of them are just all of a sudden. Some of them they know are kind of creeping up on us, all of us, when we get up there in age. But with those issues that come up, sometimes people need a little bit of assistance. Certain items that we may take for granted right now, we do every single day, can be a little bit more difficult, especially if you have issues as far as knee issues. I see knee replacements and hip replacements and you name it, to some of the diseases that we've all seen out there and hope we never have, like a Parkinson's, cancers, you name it, obviously makes some of that stuff a lot more difficult.
And it's not necessarily that whatever is afflicting you is going to be with you for the rest of your life, however short or long that is. It could be just something you're going through, like a hip replacement, where you got to have care and rehabilitation and get on your feet again. It doesn't necessarily have to be Alzheimer's or something that's putting you down forever.
Absolutely. Something we see every single day, and something we can go through at any age. But when that stuff happens, we kind of have to have a plan and sometimes a little assistance.
Tell us, in what you do, how you help families here in North Alabama.
Well, really, the biggest thing we do is we're considered non-medical in-home care. We help with all the activities of daily living that you need help with, and it's a completely custom plan to every home, everybody's needs. That can be stuff like bathing assistance. It can be simple stuff if you run into medication reminders and meal preps, maybe even doctor's visits. Those kind of items we help families with. And it's definitely not limited to that. We do a lot more, but that's some of the basics.
Yeah, and I've had many years in the long-term care arena as far as helping families protect themselves from that. And so when Jeremy says activities of daily living, there are basically 6 that come into play there as far as long-term care is concerned, bathing, dressing, eating, toileting, continence, and transferring. So if you're needing either standby or substantial assistance with any of these, that's where you guys come into play. Is that correct?
Absolutely. What we do every day, and we love helping people with those kind of things.
Okay. And so when you're helping families, talk about some real life issues that you're seeing every day that impact families that are really game changers.
Well, the biggest thing is most of us don't plan for this because right now everything's going well. Everything I can do, everything I want to do it as long as I possibly can. And we see that every day and we understand that. But there sometimes comes a point, actually now if we live above 65, it's more likely that we will need some kind of assistance than less likely.
Okay.
But that being said, we see a lot of families that go through this and maybe because we're doing well now and, want to do that as long as we possibly can, don't plan for this. And so we've seen families when this comes down really have a lot of different ideas. The kids, the parents, all on different ends of the spectrum, really, I guess, divided a little bit, and everybody has an end goal, wants what's best for whoever it is having these issues,
right?
But sometimes can go about it a little differently. And so we see without proper planning, without being proactive, it just can get a little dicey sometimes.
Well, I know the default for so many is, assisted living or nursing home, but in your experience and what I've seen, tell me what your experience is. Isn't staying at home the best alternative? Isn't that what most people desire?
Yes. And the biggest thing is we all want options. Our whole life, we've got a million options. And when we get to that stage, we also want options. Some people love the assisted living. Some people love the nursing home. But the majority of people I run across every day say their quality of life and their comfort level is so much greater when they're at home. And sometimes that takes just a little bit extra assistance to keep them there for a very long time.
If you've got any questions, get with us. Give us a call, 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. Tell my radio audience some of the things that you see that families need that you do on a daily basis. For example, grocery shopping. That's something you take for granted. You jumping in the car, going and getting the groceries. So let's talk about that.
And we've all had maybe grandparents or great grandparents that at some point, have the car,
taken away.
Taken away and the ability to drive lessens a little bit. And so we are there to help with all the errands. Absolutely. We run to the bank. If it's important to them, like for instance, we've got a lot of clients that love getting their hair done every week. Right. Every Wednesday, they've done it for 60 years. And so that being said, we're there. If it's important to them, it's important to us. But I'd say the biggest thing we get is changing a fitted sheet. If you're by yourself, and that is a tricky item, especially if you got bad hip, bad knees.
You have arthritis or something.
Arthritis, any disease that may make you a little weaker and tougher to do.
Okay.
Bathing, obviously, is something that we do every day. Personal errands, just those banks, grocery store, and even when, in a lot of cases, the family is taking care of these little items.
Right.
But there's 168 hours in a week. And if you're working with mom or dad for 168 hours a week, you might need a break. Yeah. And we want to keep the caregiver that is taking care of them a break and get them at 100% so they can give mom and dad everything when they're there. So that really takes a stress and a relief off of them.
One statistic that I've been aware of for so many years is, and the number may change, but something like 40+% of caregivers end up needing care because they get worn out. And I know I've seen in the many years I've been in this business, I have one client in particular that comes to mind where she had to pick her husband up so much because he had MS and it ended up killing her back. And so, she needed that home care type stuff for people to come help her just really get him around so that he's not confined to the bed all the time. Do you see that pretty regular?
It is so stressful to the body, to the mind. We've got a really close family friend that's going through that now and had a mom that was in a tough situation for years and had no idea that the mom would outlive her, but her working that hard has made a tremendous impact on her health, and she now needs a lot of assistance as well.
Well, we're going to take a break now. We'll be right back talking further with Jeremy Patton from Visiting Angels.
At Brad Williams Financial Services, we understand the struggles that families and business owners face today. We want to help you develop, implement, and monitor a strategy that's designed to address your personal objectives and individual situation. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. Today on the Ask Brad Show, Brad wants to make sure he gets something of value into our listeners' hands, and so he's put together a report called The Guide to Aging. You know, we're all living longer, and that makes retirement even more challenging. But in this very informative guide, Brad's put together point after point after point of things we're all going to have to deal with, like claiming our Social Security, getting ready for RMDs, and estate planning, and so much more. For your complimentary report, The Guide to Aging, give Brad a call right now, 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. We're all going to be living longer, and that's a good thing. But that's also going to present some challenges. Educate yourself today. 844-343-6048. That's
844-343-6048. Okay, welcome back to the Ask Brad Show. Today, I've got a special guest, Jeremy Patton from Visiting Angels. And what we're talking about today is the impact of health issues on retirees and their families. And it doesn't just affect you and your spouse. It affects everybody who's connected to you in one way or another, correct?
Absolutely. And the biggest thing that I talk to my friends now that I've done this for many years is just how you can maybe look for those signs, be proactive. That doesn't just mean in the financial field, because that's extremely important to be proactive with certain options like long-term care plans.
Okay.
Like just specifically having plans together on which child is going to be the closest, which is going to be the most helpful and in a spot, in a position in life. In case something comes up and needs a little help, who's going to be there, where the parent may move in with. All of those kind of questions that I see every single day are something to really do a good job of figuring out in advance.
Let me ask you a question. So a family calls you and they tell you they've got impending issues and you go visit with them. Do you actually sit down with them and help chart out a game plan of what they think they're going to need, what their activities are, what medications, this type of thing, to really help them plan all this out?
And before that, I mean, we get calls way before somebody needs help, and we put together plans and advice and different options they can do to really be proactive and get a plan together. But of course, when families call, we do 100% free in-home assessment, like a meet and greet, where we go to the house, we ask some basic questions, we take a look at what some areas that they may not even be thinking about. They've got usually a list of questions that we can answer easily. We've done for a long time. But there's also a list of questions that they're probably not thinking about. And we love to get into those, kind of bring those up so they can come up with their best plan going forward and have the parent or loved one best interest in mind long term.
And, you know, I bet you encounter some situations where the important question is one they're afraid to ask or don't want to ask. Because I know as I'm dealing with my clients' retirement plans and their finances, you know, I've got to ask the hard questions sometimes. And some of them they really don't want to talk about, but they have to if they really want a comprehensive plan in place. And do you encounter the same situation?
Absolutely. We're all, I'm, a stranger coming in. And so it is one of those things where sometimes people can be a little bit private. But once they really get in and talk to somebody that they see truly has their interest in mind and has studied up on this topic over and over again, articles from old books to new articles all the time, and really making myself an expert in the field. Hopefully, the goal is to get them to drop those walls a little bit, break down those walls, and slowly over time. Some do immediately, but some it does take a trust factor, us going and visiting and them truly seeing how we can help.
You bring the whole family in, or at least everyone who's wanting to be part of it or needs to be part of it?
Absolutely. We have gone do those assessments, and there's been 14, 16 people there. And, when I first started, I can remember how intimidating that was, but because they all have different questions. But that's where it's really fun, and that's where you really get the most in-depth advice, questions, and we really can pound out, the problem and how we can fix it.
And so you have an assortment of different professionals that you call on to do different services for people to help them get through this.
I tell people all the time, there's no way to know every answer in this, but I know where to go to get it. And so absolutely, we have experts in every aspect. From simple stuff, which you'd probably laugh at, but I had a gentleman call me and say, I can't cut my grass anymore. My yard has been the most important thing to me for a long time.
Right.
And everybody I call in the phone book is out of business. And can you help me? And I, of course, referred him to 3 really good friends that I know that have a landscape company. Went out, got the best quote, knew could trust them and never would go up on the price type of deal.
Right.
Do a good job. And we did find out his phone book was over 20 years old. So that's why we had some
he had a phone book.
Yep.
But, well, that's great. That's great. I know my father-in-law, the way he is with our farm, we live on the farm with him, taking care of that place and being on the tractor and bush hogging. That's a big part of his life. And when you get to that point in your life where you can't do that anymore, there's some psychological issues you got to adapt to as well. Not just the physical issues, but it's the acceptance, right?
That's the biggest hurdle we have to get over, is just anybody accepting what's going on and being able to accept help. We deal with all type of clients, most of them extremely pleasant, but sometimes when you've got Alzheimer's, dementia, or just not wanting to accept what's reality and what's going on in life, it can be difficult. But there's nobody in this field, I think, that doesn't 100% understand that and have compassion for it. And it doesn't matter how ugly somebody could be to us in a situation. If in the end we truly get to help them and make their quality of life better, that's all that matters.
Well, that's what it's all about. Well, Jeremy, I want to thank you for coming on. You shared some good information with my listeners. Again, my effort every week is to bring up timely and important issues, not just money issues, but things that affect all aspects of your retirement and your quality of life. Jeremy, why don't you tell people how they might get a hold of you if they're running into a situation like that or just have questions?
Absolutely. The easiest way to answer any questions is the phone. 256-929-7000 is our number, or the web address is going to be visitingangels.com/Huntsville.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, Jeremy, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
At Brad Williams Financial Services, our goal is to develop enduring, long-term personal relationships with our clients, knowing that you have placed your trust in our expertise and dedication. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
This is Brad Williams, and I have been privileged to have been an instructor over the last 12 years or so at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. They have some great course offerings. I'm currently teaching a course that I've written and taught for many years, Changing Face of Retirement in the 21st Century. But that's not all of the courses there. You can learn languages. You can learn hobbies, travel. There are so many things that you can get out of these courses they offer at the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. So check it out today and come keep your brain working.
For more information on the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, call 256-824-6183. That's 256-824-6183. Or email olli.info@uah.edu. The Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. Come keep your brain working.
Good morning, Huntsville and North Alabama. Welcome to another edition of the Ask Brad Show. Today, wanted to address something that a lot of people probably don't want to talk about and don't like to think about. But I think it's real important as my goal with this show is to be timely and informative and share some of the 30 plus years of my experience in the financial services market. I think what we need to address and what I've gotten some questions on from you guys concerns life insurance. And so today's topic, as dull and dry as that might be to some people, is the 7 things you must know before you buy life insurance. Now, I published a white paper, which will be available to you if you want to give us a call, 844-343-6048 on that title, the 7 things you must know before you buy life insurance. Because as things have gotten, internet based and there's so much information out there for you to gather that sometimes it gets confusing. You've got some radio shows you should only buy term insurance. You've got some people that say you should only buy cash value insurance. And the truth, as it usually is somewhere in the middle. It just depends on what you're looking to accomplish. I think the main question that people ask and the main answer a financial advisor should answer with is when somebody says, should I buy permanent life insurance or term insurance? And the answer ought to be, well, what are you trying to accomplish? That answer from a financial advisor should never be an unequivocal yes or no. It should always be, well, what are you trying to do? Because, just like a builder has many tools on his belt for different reasons, so does a financial advisor have many tools on his belt concerning life insurance. And so it's all about what you want to accomplish. So we look at, what can life insurance do? Well, it's actually one of the most efficient wealth transfer vehicles. In fact, most of your big estate plans include life insurance on them. And your multi-million-dollar estate plans have permanent life insurance. And so, the very wealthy are using life insurance to pay that estate tax because, if you can pay the IRS a nickel or a dime on the dollar for that dollar of estate tax, over time, you're better off. So looking at transferring wealth, it's a way that, people could potentially, if they're wanting to have more to spend in their retirement, but they still want to leave a legacy, then devoting some of the required minimum distribution or some of the distributions they get from their different investments into life insurance may make sense. Of course, that's a case-by-case basis. There's no sense in having a meager retirement just to buy life insurance to provide it to your children or grandchildren. But in some cases, depending on the size of your estate, it can make a lot of sense. Another area that a lot of people look at is company-owned life insurance or key man life insurance, because when you're a business owner and you've got multiple partners in a business, 2 or 3 partners, then you really should have a buy-sell agreement, and it should be funded. And typically that's funded with life insurance, where whether you do a cross purchase where you each buy life insurance on each other, or the company owns it and each key man is insured for a certain amount. That's real critical to look at, and that should be addressed with your financial advisor, because what you don't want is, and we'll make it simple. Let's say you're in a simple partnership with another person and you've got, a lot invested in that business. Well, if that person dies, you may not want to be in business with his spouse. And so by having the liquidity available to you through that life insurance to pay that person off to buy their shares in that business, it gives you control of that business without having to worry about a partner that you really don't want or may not even be good for the business. So, that's another area is inheritance. protecting your business through company-owned or key man life insurance. You know, one of the things about cash value insurance that a lot of the wealthy use is getting policy loans. In fact, we're not going to get into that today, but you can structure a permanent life insurance to do tax-free loans where you can put money in. You know, if you've overfunded your retirement plans, you can put money in and draw tax-free withdrawals from it. And again, that's not what I want to talk about today, but that's another use of life insurance on the permanent side, not the term side. One of the biggest uses for life insurance is replacing income. You know, if you're the primary breadwinner in your family, then having that life insurance to provide for your family, your wife, your children, because you're not there to do it is very critical. And I've been in the business long enough to have experienced many instances with clients where that was the lifesaver, where that check they got from that insurance company that was able to be invested and used for income and college and paying off a mortgage, you know, things like that, if it makes sense for you, is critical. And that's where low-cost term insurance could come in, is making sure you got enough death benefit during those formative and development years for your children and family where you got plenty of income. And one of the biggest mistakes I see in that area, and we will be getting into the 7 things you need to know before you buy life insurance, but I want to give you a little background on why life insurance is important in the first place. So providing that essential income. In fact, you know, one thing that's happened in the industry is there's some newer policies that will, instead of giving a lump sum, they give an income over a certain period of time. You may be able to choose that, hey, I want a certain amount of lump sum to pay off mortgage and pay off debts and do certain things for my family. And then the rest of it, I want to come over a 10 or 15 or 20 year period. You know, if you got a spouse that may not be great with money and you're worried that, you know, if that spouse gets all that money, they're liable to find them another husband or wife. And next thing you know, all the money's gone. The kids don't have anything. Well, there's ways to fix that now. And got any questions on that? Feel free to call me at 844-343-6048. I'll be happy to answer any questions about that, replacing income and what the different types of life insurance there are. You know, again, you look at the benefits of life insurance, that's a tax-free distribution. Very few instances with life insurance create a tax issue outside of a business arrangement. But when an individual buys life insurance with, you know, money they've earned after tax, then that benefit is tax-free. That's a thing that a lot of people don't realize, is that all that money comes to your family tax-free. So key thing to look at from the life insurance standpoint is, you know, making sure that you got an inheritance, protecting your business with company-owned life insurance. You know, if you're using permanent life insurance, there's ways to get tax-free loans out of that, tax-free income, and replacing essential income, and, you know, the fact that it's a tax-free distribution. So we got to take a commercial break right now. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
At Brad Williams Financial Services, we believe in innovative thinking, and we're not afraid to challenge conventional methods in our approach to managing, investing, and preserving wealth. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. So, how's this latest stock market roller coaster ride treating you? You know, you've worked too long and too hard, scrimping and saving for retirement to have it exposed to this market volatility or gobbled up by some retirement spend-down scheme. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, hoping for different results. For your free, no obligation, no more volatility information kit, be one of our first 10 listeners to call 844-343-6048 or visit us online at AskBradShow.com. It's time to get off the roller coaster and get serious about how you're planning for retirement using tools and strategies designed to generate steady, predictable income so you may have the retirement you've worked so long and so hard for. For your free, no obligation, no more volatility information kit, be one of our first 10 listeners to call 844 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048. Or visit us online at AskBradShow.com. That's AskBradShow.com.
All right, welcome back to the Ask Brad Show. And so what I'd like to do now is where we talk about the 7 things you must know before you buy life insurance. We're going to get into each one of them. And I think number 1, what's the biggest danger in getting quotes for life insurance online? A lot of people don't realize that it can be very dangerous when you're getting quotes online. And the reason is that many of those websites, when you Google life insurance quotes, you may get an agent, you may get a company, or you may get a lead company. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from some people is, they Googled a life insurance quote. They put in their basic information, their name, their birth date, whether they smoke, maybe some basic health questions. And then the next thing they know, within 10, 15, 20 minutes, they've already gotten 15 phone calls from different people, because many of those sites that you get quotes from are not life insurance companies or life insurance agents. They're lead generation companies. Now think about this. Think about your name, your birth date, your address, and your basic financial information on the desks of 15 people across the country within a few minutes after you press that enter button. Can you control that? With identity theft being what it is, that can be, put yourself in a very precarious position. So if you're going to get quotes online, I'd make sure they come from an agent, and I'd make sure that either that or they're from an insurance company. And a lot of people think, well, I go online and, I'm going to save money. Well, all the companies have to approve their policies in every state. So if it's available through an independent agent, it's the same thing available through an agent online. So there's really no cost savings that you're getting by buying it online. It's just that you're dealing with an 800 number in New Jersey, for example, instead of a local or an Alabama agent. So always remember that when you're getting quotes online, that many of those are lead companies, and be very careful of that, because the next thing you know, you're inundated with phone calls and it becomes a real nightmare. Now, next question I get is, how can companies offer life insurance with no exam? Well, they can, because you pay more. And, some people don't like to have blood drawn, so they'd rather just go ahead and do a no exam life insurance. Well, if you are in reasonable health, that can cost you a lot of money over the long term, because when you compare a fully underwritten life insurance plan with a no exam plan, and you total that over the 10 or 20 years that you're going to own that life insurance, you're going to pay dearly for the fact that you may have a little aversion to a needle in your arm. So I'd consider that very strongly when you're looking at no exam life insurance policies. By going through a fully underwritten plan, they can really give you the opportunity to give the best rates. And that's a big deal. So when you're looking at these companies say, hey, you don't have to have an exam, always remember that. The reason they do that is that you're going to pay more for that. So now if you've got health issues and you're afraid to go through fully underwriting plans, that may be one option for you. But always remember, when you go through the full underwriting process with those companies, you got a chance to get a much, much better rate. And I mean, significantly better rate than getting a no exam policy. And got any questions on that? Feel free to call me at 844-343-6048. Now, let me talk about one question that comes up a lot is, what's the difference between captive insurance agent and an independent financial advisor or an independent insurance agent? Well, typically a captive agent is working for a company, and I'm not going to name any companies. You see them advertised, but they're selling their life insurance, and that's it. And so that's the quote you get is from their company. But you would be surprised at different age groups the disparity between the rates on life insurance, say for a 40-year-old non-smoker in good health, between all the different companies, the differential is astronomical sometimes. So shopping with the right agent, and that's where an independent agent can help. I personally use a software program that shops all the companies for my clients. And so I know what the state of Alabama is offering. I know what the rates are. And so what you do is just get with an insurance agent or a financial advisor who has access to that information to where they can do the shopping for you. You know, there's a lot of advertisements on that, on the radio where they'll do the shopping for you. You know, one thing to remember is that when you hear these quotes that you're going to get, you know, a 10-year term for X amount of dollars, you know, that you can get $1 million for less than $20 a month or something like that. Oftentimes these companies are quoting the very best rates, and they're not necessarily quoting the rates you're going to get. They're just quoting the best rate that they have to offer. And once you get through the underwriting process, it's only then where you realize what your rate is going to be. And so, you know, looking at having an independent agent that has access to the multiple companies, that's very important because, again, you want to make sure you get the best rate. You're going to be in that thing for 10, 15, 20, even 30 years. And you want to make sure you get the best rate from the get-go. Now, one question I get from a lot of people is, you know, Brad, wow, I know I need some life insurance, but, you know, how much do I need? Well, you know, there's a lot of ways to determine that. It amazes me sometimes when people just make up an arbitrary number. Well, you know, $250,000, yeah, that's plenty. That's plenty for my wife. You know, I don't need any more. And it's amazing to me, the many years I've been in the business, I think a lot of times men don't want to admit their mortality, so they really don't want to discuss life insurance. Whereas the wife, she typically wants to because she knows, you know, if something happens to him, especially if he's the primary breadwinner, that it's all on her shoulders. And if he's not there to help, having at least a life insurance policy would eliminate a lot of that pain. So some agents use a multiple of income. Some of the life insurance companies, as a general rule, have insurability limits, which means you know, they're only going to sell you a policy up to a certain amount of your income unless you have, you know, other reasons for that, which they will. It's just you have to document why you need that much life insurance. You know, for example, if you're making $50,000 a year and you want a $5 million life insurance policy, well, an insurance company's going to want to know why you feel you need that much. And if it could be because your business or business debt or something like that, then that may make sense, and that's not a problem. You just have to document it in the underwriting process. But again, a lot of people use a multiple of income. Think about it this way. You know, if you make, we'll just make it easy. If you make $50,000 a year and you have $250,000 of life insurance, that's really only going to cover your family for 5 years or less, depending on what your final expenses are. So that's something to consider, especially since, you know, if you're young and you're fairly healthy, you can buy a lot of term insurance for 20, 30 years and lock those rates in. And in fact, I highly recommend people, you know, if they feel they need life insurance, get it as young and as healthy as they can, because it's only going to get more expensive as they get older. And as they get older, they may have health issues that may cause them to pay more or even preclude them from even getting life insurance at all at that point. So there are some ways to calculate that. If you're wanting to know, Brad, how much life insurance do I need? I can show you a simple calculation. You can call in 844-343-6048. You can also schedule a free 1-hour consultation, no obligation and no cost, 844-343-6048.
Have you missed any of today's show? Would you like to listen to past shows? We've got you covered 24/7. Visit AskBradShow.com. That's AskBradShow.com.
All right, now that we're back, I want to get to our next question. A lot of people will buy life insurance from the same guy they have their insurance with their boat and their car and their home. Maybe they're giving a package deal. Hey, well, we give you some discounts on some of your policies, if you buy your life insurance with us. Now, the key is a lot of those companies that do your home, your boat, and your car, their life insurance is a way for them to make the profit on the very low margin they make by doing your home, your boat, and your car. So oftentimes when you look at the quotes and you'll see some of these big name companies that do, your homes, your boats, and your cars, it's considerably more expensive for the same policy as a company that may specialize in just life insurance or life and annuities or something like that. So again, it's very important when you're in the process of looking at life insurance that you do your shopping. And with technology being the way it is, it doesn't take much. Again, make sure you don't get on a lead company instead of a agent's website, and ask them. One of the questions to ask an advisor is, what software do you use? What's your quoting software? Are you using a brokerage house's software that's only going to offer the policies that they sell? Or are you looking at all the policies out there on the market? That's a key term. That's a key term to ask. Where's this quote coming from, and how do you calculate your quotes? Next question is, how long does it typically take to get a life insurance application approved? And that varies depending on how simplified the underwriting is. If you're what we call a clean application in the industry and don't have a lot of health issues, no meds, just, annual physicals for checkups and they're all good, your height, weight is good, it could be 2 to 3 weeks. It could be as much as 2 months, depending on how hard it is to get the doctor's records and things like that. But the key is once you get in that process is you get the quotes from the agent, ask them, what's your process? How are you going to keep me abreast of the progress of this as we're going through it? Because, one complaint a lot of people have is they take an application with an agent and the agent goes through his process and it may take 6 weeks. They don't hear from him for 6 weeks. So they don't know, how am I doing? Is it going through all right or is it not? So remember that, ask them, how long does it take? Typically, do you think it'll take me? And what are you going to do during the process to keep me abreast of the progress? And our final question is employer life insurance. Employer life insurance is a great benefit, but so often that benefit has got handcuffs, meaning if you leave that company, you leave that life insurance behind. Another problem with company life insurance, to use that as your primary life insurance amount, is the fact that it's typically tailored for the younger ages. And it's typically done in 5-year brackets. So you'll have a rate, say, from 30 to 35 and then from 36 to 40. And every time you hit a new age bracket, your premium goes up. And then once you hit about 40, 45, especially in the federal government, you really start to see those premiums jack up. I mean, they're ratcheting up pretty high. So if you're got a family, you got obligations, and you're, late 30s, early 40s, it's oftentimes a good time to go ahead and shop and lock in a 20 or a 30-year term policy, because you're ultimately going to pay a lot less by having it for that long than you would have if you just kept your employer. Plus, if you leave, you don't leave it. And if you've had health issues, you may not be able to get coverage. So having your own as your base is good, and then using your employer as just a supplement makes a lot of sense. Again, having your own plan and not relying on your employer, that is just common sense. So again, as we're wrapping up here, what I've been talking to you about is the 7 things you must know before you buy life insurance. I'd be happy to email you this white paper that I wrote. If you'll email me at brad@askbradwilliams.com. That's BRAD at ASKBRADWILLIAMS.com. I'll be happy to get a copy of that out to you. You can give me a call, 844-343-6048. This encompasses a lot of questions I've gotten. As I said, if you've got a financial question, email it to brad@askbradwilliams.com. I've gotten a few on life insurance, so I thought that would drive today's show topic. And I look forward to speaking to you again next week, and we'll be back next week.
That's all the time we have for today. To learn more about Brad Williams Financial Services or to set up a complimentary review,
call 844-343-6048. That's 844-343-6048.
Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Brad Williams Financial Services and Sound Income Strategies, LLC are not associated entities.